What's good with the YouTube? You already know. Big Flacco from a convict's perspective, and I'm gonna smash, dash, and slide on through with what? A little bit of energy, man. Let's get it cracking, people. Hope everybody has a happy 4th of July weekend, and stay safe out there, guys. Okay, so today we're gonna be breaking down a very interesting topic. We're gonna go into the sequence of events and how Daniel Ashley, aka Lizard Hernandez, flipped and worked as an informant and so forth. I'll add a little bit more details of what I know behind the case as well. This is going to be interesting, though, man. This is stuff that the feds were involved in, some of the illicit activities he was involved in, and whatnot, and even my own personal experience with Lizard. May 20th, 2000, NF Lieutenant Daniel Lizard Hernandez is paroled to Santa Barbara area. Hernandez in June is arrested for violating the terms and conditions of his parole and is returned to Corcoran State Prison. So at that time when Daniel Ashley Lizard was sent over there to Corcoran, I was there at that time. I paroled shortly thereafter. Okay, in December of 2000, Daniel Hernandez is paroled from Corcoran and begins cooperating with the FBI. Okay, at that time, that's when he met with Special Agent from Santa Rosa, George Collard, and they went all the way out there to a motel room, and I guess it took him like hours to finally get him to convince to work with them. I want to say this was December 26th. I could be wrong, man, but I think that's the date that he decided to cooperate, man. And he started to reveal a lot of information of things that he was involved in and hits that were supposed to go down and whatnot, including the hit regarding the district attorneys that him and Happy were supposed to partake in. Anyways, by January, Daniel Lizard Hernandez is indicted on racketeering and murder charges. January 5th, Daniel Lizard Hernandez sends a kite to Joseph Pinky Hernandez, requesting his assistance in obtaining permission to act as the sole controller of the San Jose area. Hernandez is unhappy that Matt Rocha is exerting a bit of control on the San Jose streets. That's about the time I was out there. I think that may have had a lot to do with Chico Rose from Salinas out there in San Jose. But there was a lot of politicking, as you're going to see in a couple of these other events that are going to come out. Okay, so January 15th, 2001, Daniel Lizard Hernandez demands 25% of profits from a counterfeiting operation run by NF associate Jeff Allen. January 16th, 2001, Familiano Robert Chico Rose informs Daniel Hernandez that he thinks he has been put on freeze for bad-mouthing Jimmy Wino Zarowski. Hernandez and Rose organize a meeting, which plans for reorganizing the San Jose Regiment are announced. Plans are also made to establish regiments in Visalia and Stockton. So I guess Chico had some issues potentially with Wino. What's funny though, man, is I would go there to see Chico, man. I told him I was in contact with Carlitos and all that, right? And he would send me basically money orders to send to Carlitos a couple times, man, in Wino. Like I've said previously before, Wino was really close with Courtney. Their moms used to talk and so forth, man. And Wino was at that time supposed to come out and basically take command of the streets. And Ashley was only in that position temporarily. And there was a lot of charges that were being filed against Cuete based upon what, Ashley had told Wino and so forth. Wino was a lot higher ranking than people realize, man. From my understanding, he was filling in one of those positions as a captain. That could be checked into, but from my understanding, he actually filled in one of those positions, man. On January 20th or 19th, Daniel Hernandez meets with Jimmy Zarowski's mother and tells her to route all mail through him. Okay. On January 20th, Daniel Hernandez sends a red line to several imprisoned leaders recommending the impeachment of NF General Gerald Cuete Rubalcaba and Lieutenant Sheldon Villanueva. The red line also called for NF Lieutenant David Cervantes to be put on retirement status. They were actually captains. Okay. January 22nd, 2001. Daniel Hernandez attempts to alienate Henry Cervantes from imprisoned NF leader Gerald Cuete Rubalcaba by telling him falsely that Rubalcaba has deemed him, Cervantes, as being no good because he has betrayed the organization. He also states that NF leaders Sheldon Skip Villanueva and James Cornel Perez are under investigation. On orders of his FBI handlers, Hernandez squashes rumors that Santos Bernias is cooperating with authorities. Hernandez labels Robert Juanito Gradden no good. Okay, January 27th. Daniel Hernandez writes red lines on request of the FBI to NF General Cornelio Corny Tristan, Daniel Stork Perez, who's the security department, and General James Tibbs Morado, stating that he is in charge of the street operations for the NF, and General Gerald Cuete Rubalcaba and Shelton Villanueva are interfering with his control. January 31st, Daniel Hernandez instructs Familiano Israel Silent Mendoza to keep him informed of every drug deal. That's kind of crazy right there. Okay. February 1st, Hernandez sends a red line informing General Gerald Rubalcaba that he has deposited $3,000 in the NF Bank and forwarded $1,000 to Zarowski's crew. On February 3rd, 2001, Santa Rosa Familiano, Robert Wolfie Haas asked Daniel Hernandez to check out Jason Bashmir before he makes him a member of his Wolfpack crew. Oh, that's listo. February 7th, 2001. Jimmy Zarowski sends Hernandez a kite ordering all communication with Robert Rose to cease. Hernandez decides to ignore the order along with several others. B. Daniel Hernandez instructs Israel Mendoza what prices to charge for narcotics. Okay, this is just getting interesting, man. Okay, February 14, 2001. Daniel Hernandez instructs Familiano Ramiro Goose Garcia to cut ties with San Jose Regiment Security Department and Antonio Chuco Guillen. On February 19, 2001, Daniel Hernandez sends Corny Friston a red line complaining about Jimmy Travieso Morales. Hernandez makes accusations of betrayal against Morales, which could have led to their death and or banishment from the NF. Hernandez reiterates his desire to have Rubalcaba and Villanueva impeached for interfering with his authority on the streets. Hernandez goes on to accuse James Conejo Perez of not earning his authority within the gang. Copies of the red line were sent to Zarowski at Corcoran State Prison and Joseph Pique Hernandez at Pelican Bay. Okay, this gets, let me see, March 9th, 2001. Daniel Hernandez instructs Familiano Ramiro Garcia to eliminate Marcaja Rodriguez if he continues to be an obstacle. Hernandez suggests to Alberto Bird Larez that Jaime Smokey Rodriguez and Paul Powder Killinger would be good choices for RSD and head of security of the Salinas Regiment. March 11th, 2001. NF regimental commanders hold a junta where Hernandez falsely states that Sheldon Villanueva and General James Tibbs Morado are under investigation and that James Blackie Enriquez is on freeze. See, this is all the feds are telling him to do this shit. It's kind of crazy, huh? March 22nd, 2001. Daniel Hernandez instructs Robert Rose that he, Rose, is under the GOP General Prisons and therefore answers to the command of Hernandez. Against the wishes of Zarowski, Hernandez names Rose RSD of the San Jose Regiment. See, that's actually exerting his control, you know what I'm saying, as far as out there in the streets. See, I was working under the GOP as well. That's who I was plugged in under, but under Zarowski's crew as well. Okay, March 28, 2001. Joseph Pinky Hernandez, in a red line to Daniel Lizard Hernandez, refused to acknowledge as the NF street commander and orders him to continue reporting to Jimmy Wino Zarowski at Corcoran and Zarowski's regiment commander, Jose Huerito Gonzalez. Lizard Hernandez is warned about sticking his chest out and doing unnecessary things. So right there, man, this is a lot, man, right there. You know what I'm saying? So if his regiment commander were to continue reporting to Jimmy Wino Zarowski at Corcoran and Zarowski's regiment commander, that's kind of interesting right there. You know, that just goes to show you how high-ranking these individuals were and what was really going on. As you can see, Wino Zarowski is mentioning a lot of this shit regarding Operation Black Widow. You know what I'm saying? You know, which is kind of interesting. You know, it kind of validates everything that I put out there about him. You know what I mean? Okay. March 30th, 2001. Rico Garcia instructs Albert Larez to assist his defense investigators to obtain a list of witnesses against the NF. Larez informs Daniel Hernandez of his cooperation and is told that he shouldn't listen to Garcia, who has no authority as he is in jail. Larez is arrested along with Jaime Smokey Rodriguez and Paul Powder Killinger. That's April 5th, 2001. April 12th, 2001. Nuestro Familiano Robert Wolfie Haas is arrested and charged with a parole violation. Same day, Israel Silent Mendoza is arrested. Hernandez names Anthony Chino Morales Visalia Regiment RSD. Sylvester Silver Gomez is named Regiment Head of Security. Both are ordered to report to Hernandez twice daily. April 17th, 2001. Robert Bubba Hanrahan is paroled with a letter from James Cornel Perez, placing Hanrahan in charge of the Salinas Regiment, displacing Hernandez's choice, Armando Heredia. Hernandez refused to acknowledge the command and instructs Heredia to carry on as instructed. Hanrahan passes this information on to General Matt Mateo Rocha at Pelican Bay through his sister Sophie. For this act, Hernandez strips Hanrahan of his status within the NF. Yeah, I don't think he had authority to do that, though. On April 20th, 2001, 13 Nuestra Familia members are indicted on 25 counts of racketeering. Rico Smiley Garcia, Cesar Lobo Ramirez, David Sardino Rocha, Cornelio Tristan, James Morado, Tex Hernandez, Gerald Rubalcaba, Sheldon Villanueva, Daniel Perez, Diana Vasquez, Henry Cervantes, Jacob Enriquez, and Fidel Vabella are the principal figures. Hernandez instructs a group of familianos that he was removing Eric Cobra Martinez as the RSD in Visalia, with a figure to be named later. Hernandez continues to spread misinformation, instructing the group to ignore any orders from imprisoned gang leaders, including those from the OGB. He also cut ties with Sophie Rocha because she knows too much. New indictments charging 8 Nuestra Familia members with racketeering is handed down in Sonoma County. Joseph Hernandez, Robert Rose, Israel Mendoza, Romero Garcia, Albert Lorez, Luis Arocha, Armando Heredia, and Anthony Morales. That's when they snatched up Chico Rose, and Goose was actually in the county jail at that time. A lot of these cats were out there on the streets at that, you know what I mean? I think a lot of them too got indicted because of that murder with Raymond Sanchez, man. That became a big issue because that happened on the FBI's watch, man. And I talked to someone that heard the tapes, right, when Ashley confronted Suave, and I guess Suave was getting chewed out by Lizard big time for doing that, man. And that they believe that the way Lizard tore into his ass about it, that they believe that Lizard had no part really in it. Now, there's a lot of people who say that Lizard gave statements that could be misleading as far as in dealing with the issue. I get that. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more clear. But there's question marks whether he gave the directives or not. He's dead now, so it's kind of, that's something that he's going to take between him, Suave, and God. Anyways, on July 3rd, Daniel Hernandez signs a government agreement, right, which will save him from a life sentence. In turn, Hernandez pleads guilty to one count of conspiracy to conduct a continuing criminal enterprise. July 24, 2001. Daniel Hernandez heads a NF meeting at which he tells the gathering that he is running the streets and Jimmy Wino Zarowski had no authority until he is released later in the summer. So that's pretty much confirms a lot of things I've talked about, you know what I'm saying, regarding Wino. I touched base with Wino, like I said before, on many spills shortly after, man. And I don't know what happened to him. He just disappeared. You know, first time I met up with him, man, he's like, I'm going to pull you as a C and all this shit, which he had the authority to do, basically, too. And he just dispersed. He just disappeared. You know what I'm saying? That was like in 2001. So I think I was, what, about, let me see, 23 years old. You know what I'm saying? 23 years old. They were already trying to recruit me as a C out there. Let me see. I won't ever forget that day he came in with a fucking hairnet. You know what I mean? And he was with his brothers, right? And his brothers were just regular white dudes. They weren't like, you know what I mean? And stuff. And I'm like, man, this is like a little different. And the homeboy Black Steve comes through and he's with the homie Monster, and fucking Wino goes up to him, we'll plug you in. And these dudes are reported to like Skip and Corny and shit. You know what I mean? And then I think shortly after, there's a couple other homeboys came through that day, but that's how I started to work with Powder from Salinas and a couple other cats. Okay, December 4th. 2003, Armando Suave Heredia from Santa Cruz, one-time street commander of the Salinas Regiment, is sentenced to 25 years to life after pleading guilty to weapons and drug conspiracy. His plea included ordering the murder of Salinas drug dealer Raymond Sanchez. Man, this is all how it all ended, man. I mean, during that time, Skip was given permission, like I said, off top. Skip was supposed to come home off his state case that he caught like with back in the early 90s. He was part of the indictment with like Cripple Jerry and Spinkio and Wevel and all them, right? So he was supposed to come home off that indictment. You know, a lot of us were waiting for him to come home. What ended up happening was he ended up getting indicted shortly after. And what they did is they allowed him to take a deal off top to get the feds to start helping Mad Dog to recruit. Mad Dog was the number one authority in the feds, but Skip was number two. Skip had a big impact, and so did Mad Dog. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people kind of misconstrue when I say Skip helped establish the feds. He did, because of that incident in Sheridan kind of fucking kick-started everything along the ways. But that was Skip's main objective, right? Was by brass to go over there and start recruiting, because they were offering like 12 or 14 years. But what you had to do was that allocution, where you had to admit that you were part of a criminal organization. After that, they told everybody that they couldn't take deals. So for about 3 years, they were fighting their cases, man. And around 2004, what ended up happening is they had some co-defendants that still stayed solid. There was a lot of dudes who were deemed no good just for taking deals. They were out for 10 years or 14 years, so they fucking took it and they were deemed. But you still had like Happy, you still had Bird, you still had Spider, you still had Stork, and a couple other individuals that had chances to go home. So what the Fed guys did is they ended up taking deals to make sure that these guys got deals. You know what I'm saying? Which after a 3-year battle with the courts. Okay, so this is everything that happened, man. Actually, Daniel Hernandez, I've heard a lot of stories about it, man. You know, I was in Corcoran at the time when he got there, and you know, the regiment commander at that time was Carlitos from Sanjo, and he was set up with Wino Zarowski. And Wino was more preparing to come home to the streets, man. As you could tell in this whole breakdown, you know, Wino was a lot more deeply involved in a leadership position than what's being credited to him at that time. Like I said, I was told he was a captain. You know what I'm saying? Because there was always that void of a person in that position. So, you know, as you can see from the spill, he was really, really involved in the mix. So Ashley came there, and he didn't want to comply with procedures, as we know. He thought he was some special dude. He tried to get crazy with Sombras, and then Carlitos checked him on the yard with the support of Wino. You know what I'm saying? You know, like I said, everything was in chaos at that time, man. And Corcoran was able to do a lot of good things, man, because they were able to, through the leadership that they had, set up a positive example for people to go out through the streets. Like, you know, Carlitos and Wino and them, right, when they recruited me, they took a hands-on approach because they needed someone out there on the streets, right? And they needed someone to go out there and, you know what I mean, to function. And so that's why they took not necessarily recruited me, but took a hands-on approach, right, to working hand in hand with me, which was kind of a privilege at that time. I learned a lot, man. I mean, one thing is homeboy would jump in and do spills every once in a while, right? But I was getting the education every day, street concepts, everything, fucking about crews and all kinds of shit about the NF and whatnot that you weren't entitled to as an NR member. And this shit was like lacing me up, and it was preparing me to go out there to the streets. You know, and when everything happened, it was kind of like I said, man, Ashley was able to manipulate his way through that whole shit, man. You know, it was just a crazy scenario, man, where you had a dude that was sending directives and red lines on behalf of the federal government. How the fuck do you get over with that, man? I remember the conversation I've had with him. I've said this many times, you know. Hey, this is Daniel, you know what I'm saying? Gave me a Lone Pac number, you know. I sent my coded in to Carlitos. He sent it out with Ashley. Ashley hit me up. You know, hey, we're going to hook you up with the brother Robert out there. And he's like, you know, what do you be doing out there? I said, well, man, I've been checking things out. There's a lot of people selling weed. He goes, if we get it to you, can we move it? I'm like, well, fuck, I'll see what's up. He goes, all right, but remember this. There's only 2 people that have the authority to put a green light is. That's me and the other person, you already know who that is. He was talking about Wino Zarowski, you know. But yeah, Ashley got pretty much put across, man, and you know, they were politicking at that time. You know, I remember when I took the homeboy Chops up to visit Chico, I had some money I picked up, and I said, where do you want me to get it to? And it was fucking, he had said, you know, Cuete, Silent, and some other cat, right? And so when I told Wino, he goes, man, fuck that. Cuete ain't got shit coming. He committed treason. And so there was already conflict with Cuete way back then, man. You know what I'm saying? Regarding that whole fucking, all those issues he had, man. And I think what kind of hurt Wino Zarowski was that he was so supportive of Ashley, right? and in taking a stance and filing charges against these C's, he had a backlash effect, man. You got to remember, at that time you had Conejo was demoted, never to hold a position again. Cohete was demoted, not to hold a position again. Tex, right, was demoted, not to hold a position. That's 3 captains, right? Then you had The Rock. He flipped. Chispas, he flipped. Boxer from Selma, he flipped. I think the only ones that really stayed fucking solid would have been Skip and man, Tex and them, they stayed solid, but they couldn't maintain those captain positions, and so a lot of people got demoted. I think that's what kind of also affected everything, was that people were not always looking at everything as holy merit. Well, these dudes are former captains; they don't hold no position. You know what I'm saying? And somehow Conejo was able to weasel his way out of things too, as well, man. And there was a lot of politicking, man. It all comes down to politics, believe it or not, man. It gets cutthroat. You know, you're gonna have to align your assets, align your alliances and so forth, and get prepared to do battle, man. You know, people are in the campaign, they're going to try to promote this message and that message, and whoever can get ahead of the issues first, man, I say 9 out of 10 times is going to win. And who can ever come with a more credible account, that's also going to be key, man. So like I said, Operation Black Widow, this is how the investigation took place. This was a really crazy time, man. I don't think you guys realize, man, that the feds had infiltrated them very deeply. They had flipped people like Bad Boy, they had flipped people like Chico, and all kinds of other individuals, man. And they were going to build a lot of cases, man. I was told personally, man, that, you know, people like Boxer, Rojo, and even myself, they were going to make a project out of, man. And I heard this from George Collard himself, who was the lead investigator, that they were, they pretty much could have got Rojo and Boxer. Me, they were thinking about making a project of me, and they had enough information on me to try to get some, man. But I wasn't, on that level of Rojo or Boxer at that time. So, we got lucky, though, he told us, that 9/11 pretty much saved our ass, and that, the head investigator, Robert Mueller, the one that investigated Trump, wanted to focus more on the violent cases. So there was a couple cases that got put on the back burner as opposed to being addressed then. And it was because these cases were more, murder, violence, and whatnot, so it looked better on the resume. But they were supposed to get back to all these other. But 9/11 happened, all the resources just changed everything, man. And I think that's why there wasn't no second indictments till around 2007, man, till Operation Black Widow pretty much changed, man. Anyways, this is your boy Flacco, man, a convict's perspective, man. Man, I hope everyone has a happy 4th of July. Positive messages, inspiration. Let's just be safe out there and just do the right thing. I'm gone.